back to my channel. I am back with another Baddies Africa review, so let's just get right into it because a lot happened in this episode. So this episode starts off with all the baddies packing up to leave Africa and to go to London. So at this point, we know that the season is about to come to an end because we know that they ended this season in London. And I'm just gonna say they spent way too much time in this episode with the girls packing. We didn't need to see every girl pack up their bags to leave. I felt like they spent way too much time on that. This episode was 49 minutes long, and I think they could have added more of the club altercation if they wouldn't have spent so much time on this part. But as the girls are packing, Choco is actually packing up to leave because she says that she can't go with the girls to London because something's going on with her passport, so she's unable to go. And we also recently found out, I think the other day, that Choco also won't be able to attend the reunion for the same reason. So I'm actually a little bit annoyed that Choco can't come to the reunion because I was definitely interested to see what she was gonna bring. But the baddies finally end up arriving in London, and they have the big three on the sprinter with Elsie K and also Russian Kream. And they end up getting into a really big argument because Dolly ends up confronting Elsie about a lie that she told on her. Apparently, Elsie was telling people that Dolly was trying to stop her and Russian Kream's bag because when Natalie said at the club a few episodes ago that she wanted to take all the girls on the baddies tour for the rest of the summer so that they can make some more money. And apparently, Elsie was saying that Dolly said that they shouldn't be able to go, basically trying to stop their bags. But Dolly said that that's not what she said. And Elsie threw Russian Kream completely under the bus because she said that she heard this information about Dolly directly from Russian Kream. So Russian Kream immediately starts to defend herself, and she starts saying that that's not what she said, that Elsie K is changing her words around. She said that when they were in the club and Natalie was saying that she was taking all the girls, including Russian Kream and Elsie K, on the baddies tour and they would be getting 10K each, she said that she looked over at Dolly and Dolly made a hand gesture towards her and Elsie K. Basically, she made the cut hand gesture like the two of them should be cut from coming on the tour. So that's what Russian Kream said that she went back and told Elsie, and now Elsie is changing her words around. But Elsie said directly in front of Russian Kream and the big three that she was not lying and that, you know, Russian Kream actually said a lot more than she's saying she did. And honestly, I don't know who to believe because I feel like Elsie has told a couple of lies this season. Like, some of the things that she was saying happened, we never actually got to see, and that doesn't mean that she's not telling the truth, but she also has gotten online and admitted that she stirred up some drama in the house. So I don't know if she's telling the truth about what Russian Kream said, but we also know that Russian Kream has said some things that weren't true this season as well. So I really don't know who to believe, but apparently Dolly believes Elsie K and not Russian Kream, which is very clear that Dolly has already not really liked Russian Kream. I mean, you could just tell the way that Dolly has spoken to Russian Kream throughout this season that she's not really a fan of her. And in this scene, Russian Kream and Dolly do go back and forth about that because Russian Kream said that she already knows that Dolly doesn't like her, and Dolly said that she was already honest about not liking Russian Kream, and she said that her and Russian Kream had already talked about that, so she doesn't understand why Russian is bringing that up. But Russian Kream and Elsie end up getting into a screaming match with each other. They start yelling back and forth at each other. Russian Kream starts saying how Elsie K doesn't get in the paint and she doesn't want to fight, and Elsie kind of gagged me a little bit because I was surprised at the things that was coming out of her mouth. Like, she told Russian Kream that she's been hiding behind the big three, and she also said that her cat was still tight. I don't understand why she kept saying that throughout this argument between her and Russian Kream, but she kept yelling that her cat was still tight, and I thought that was kind of funny only because you can tell this is not the way that Elsie K really talks, and that's why it was kind of funny to me, and that's why she gagged me a little bit because I wasn't expecting the things that was coming out of her mouth to come out of her mouth. But Russian Kream gets tired of Elsie K yelling things out at her, so she just jumps up and she starts popping Elsie with the hand that she has wrapped up in a cast, which she was claiming that she's been injured this entire time since her fight with Rolly, but yet that's the hand that she used to fight Elsie with. And I'm not mad at Russian Kream for hitting Elsie because Elsie was talking a lot of shit and she yells a lot, so that does kind of get on people's nerves, so I can understand why she popped her. I just feel like she should have had that energy with some of the other girls that were calling her out this season and not just with Elsie, because it seems like she went after Elsie because Elsie is an easier target, because I feel like a lot of the other girls had came at, you know, Russian Kream the wrong way too, and she said that she didn't want to fight them because her hand was injured, but then she gets up and she hits Elsie. Now, Natalie, Amber Rose, and Latina Rose end up arriving to the London house before the rest of the baddies do, and Natalie says that she's calling a house meeting, so we know that a house meeting means that they're going to be fighting with each other, and that's exactly what ends up happening. They end up arriving to the baddies house to meet up with Natalie, and that's when Rolly ends up asking Dolly what happened with Russian Kream and Elsie on the sprinter. And to summarize it, basically Dolly said that Russian Kream got called out in a lie from Elsie, and so that's the reason why the two of them ended up getting into a fight, and Natalie ends up asking asking Dolly what they were fighting about, and Dolly says that Russian Kream was trying to say that she said she doesn't feel like Elsie and Russian Kream should be able to go on the Baddies tour and make any money. So Natalie ends up going outside to talk to Russian Kream because Russian Kream did not want to go in the house, and basically Russian said that Elsie was lying on her, putting words in her mouth. She said that she felt like, Dolly didn't like her, and that's why she was trying to say she shouldn't go on the Baddies tour. But Natalie said that she brings whoever she wants to bring on the tour, and she thinks that Russian Kream is cute and she's fun at the club, so she's somebody that she wants to bring. But let's be honest, I have not seen LCK or Russian Kream on any of Natalie's Baddies tours. That doesn't mean that they weren't there, but I definitely didn't see them, and I definitely follow Natalie on Instagram. But while Natalie was outside talking to Russian Kream, that's when Rolly decided that she was going to ask Diamond if she still has an issue with Latina Rose, and Diamond basically said that she did still have an issue with Latina Rose. She feels like Latina came after her for no reason, just because she wanted a spot on the show. She feels like it was no reason for her to fight her when she just got there. And look, I understand where Diamond's coming from, and I definitely feel like Latina Rose embarrassed herself when she came after Diamond and she ended up getting beat up like that. However, I feel like Diamond is a little bit of a hypocrite sometimes, because she also hit Choco Brown on her first day and Choco didn't do anything to her. So I feel like, she hit somebody for no reason too. But Latina says that if Diamond wants her lick back, she can get it. And so the two of them get up and they start fighting with each other. And to me, it looked like Latina Rose can actually fight a little bit. She was trying to swing and she kept her head up, but Diamond ended up grabbing her by her hair and dropping her on the floor, and she kind of dragged her by her hair a little bit and was hitting her. So Diamond won that fight. But I feel like if Diamond didn't grab her by her hair, I definitely felt like it would have been a better fight. I feel like Latina probably would have did a little bit better. I know this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I kind of feel like they should bring Latina Rose back next season, only because they brought her in at the very last minute, which I felt like was completely pointless. Why bring her back in the last couple of days of the season? Because nobody's going to get to know her or get to know what she's about. So I definitely feel like they should bring her back next season. I just don't think they should do what they did with the girls on Baddies Caribbean, where a lot of them never got a chance to be on the show and we never really got to see them. Like J.O., we never really got to see what she could bring because they would never bring her out. But after the fight between Diamond and Latina Rose was broken up, that's when Natalie and Russian Kream end up coming into the room, and that's when Dolly starts trying to defend herself, because Natalie was kind of annoyed at Dolly a little bit after talking to Russian Kream, because Natalie tells Dolly that she feels like, she can bring whoever she wants to bring on tour and it's not Dolly's choice. But Dolly said that that's not what she said. She said that when they were in the club and Natalie was talking about bringing some of the baddies on the Baddies tour, she said in front of Russian Kream and Elsie and everybody else in the group that she felt like they would not get bookings because LCK and Russian Kream were boring during the season. She said it in front of their faces, and Natalie and a lot of the other girls said that they remembered that, so they don't understand why Russian Kream made it a big deal. I don't know if Russian Kream was the one that made it a big deal or if Elsie was the one that made it a big deal, because I don't really know which one of them is telling the truth. But Elsie ends up hopping up out of her seat. She takes her wig off and she starts walking up on Russian Kream, and Russian Kream starts backing up, saying that she doesn't want to fight because her hand is injured. But LCK did not care, and the two of them started fighting anyway in the hallway. They were just grabbing onto each other, because we know Elsie doesn't really swing. She just grabs onto people. The two of them were holding on to each other and they fell on the floor. I think Russian Kream was hitting Elsie in the face a little bit while they were on the floor, or grabbing her by her face. But Russian Kream got so upset after this fight was broken up that she stormed out of the house, and Lex ends up running up behind her and she starts asking her why she's upset and why she wants to leave. She doesn't feel like Russian Kream should quit the show, but Russian Kream said that she's quitting because she said she didn't want to fight because her hand was injured, and yet LCK came up to her and started fighting her anyway. And Lex was basically telling her that she was kind of acting like a hypocrite because on the sprinter she didn't care about her hand being hurt. She jumped up and hit LCK first, and then she's mad now that LCK wanted her lick back. And I feel like Lex made a lot of sense in that conversation, because it is the truth. You can't hit somebody out of nowhere and then expect them not to want to fight you again. You just can't expect that. I don't know why Russian Kream thought that Elsie was going to care more about her hand than she did. If she didn't care about her hand enough to not fight her on the sprinter, then why would LCK care not to fight her during the house meeting? This is how I feel about Russian Kream. I think in the first 2 episodes, I thought she was definitely going to bring something to the season. I thought she was pretty. I thought she had a nice body, and she was really turned up the first 2 episodes, and I felt like she could fight, because the 2 fights that she did have, I felt like she won them, except for the fight with Rolly. Being called out and getting beat up by Rolly, I think was Russian Kream's downfall. I think it hurt her feelings when Rolly called her out, because I think she liked Rolly and I think she wanted to get along with all the OGs that were a part of this season, which is Scotty and Rolly. And And then when that didn't happen and Rolly called her out, I honestly think that she was embarrassed by it. And then when Rolly beat her up in front of everybody, I definitely felt like that hurt her pride a little bit. And that's the reason why her tune changed throughout the season. She wasn't as vocal. She really didn't stand out that much. And so I definitely feel like the fight with Rolly was her downfall. I feel like Russian Kream should have been on Baddies Gone Wild. I don't feel like she should have been on Baddies. I feel like Baddies Gone Wild, she probably would have done a lot better. But she leaves and that's the end of her for the rest of the season. But at the house meeting, Rolly ends up asking Summer if there's anything that she wants to get off her chest, and she immediately starts addressing Kold Killa because she said Kold Killa was pressing her at the airport, but Kold Killa said the only reason why she was pressing Summer at the airport is because when she walked past Summer, Summer started laughing. So they start going back and forth with each other, and Summer calls her out for a fight, and Summer ends up winning that fight, and she wins it pretty quickly. She was swinging and she was catching Kold Killa a couple of times, and then she dropped her on the floor and she was able to overpower her completely. So I'll give that win to Summer, although Kold Killa does get out there when she needs to, which is why I'm surprised that we're already at the very end of the season and Kold Killa hasn't gotten her Baddies chain yet. I honestly feel like she should have got the Baddies chain before Fauna. But I will say I like that after the fight was over between Summer and Kold Killa, Fauna immediately put a bonnet on Kold Killa's head because her wig got ripped off and her hair was kind of messed up underneath it, and then her wig ended up getting ripped. So I love that she gave her a bonnet really quickly. But after the fight between Kold Killa and Summer is broken up, Natalie tells the girls that that's enough fighting. It's time to get ready to go to their first club booking in London, and she tells the girls that she wants them to be on their best behavior because this is a new market for them that they can break into, and she doesn't want any drama at the clubs. But we know that that's not really how things go because they're at the club having a good time. Everybody's there, even Tommy and Amber Rose, and everybody's partying. Natalie's on the microphone, and all of a sudden we just see chaos in the corner going on. I think it's Summer and Kold Killa arguing with each other. Summer ends up throwing liquor at her, and then all of a sudden Kold Killa just starts picking up big things at the club and tossing it at Summer, and Natalie is on the microphone really pissed off, telling them to stop fighting at the club. I just think it's crazy that they go to these clubs that they're being paid to be at and they start fighting and acting like that. Like, you're literally in the club throwing things from the club at each other. Like, that's crazy to me that they were acting that way. I don't know who started the fight between the two of them because we didn't get to see that. We just saw the aftermath of the back and forth between Kold Killa and Summer. But these are my thoughts on this week's episode of Baddies Africa. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode down in the comment section, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video.